The history of Fallout is incomplete. Decades and centuries have passed since the first detonations that signaled the beginning and the end of the Great War, leaving behind messages from the past that meet us in the present today. Wherever we may find ourselves, the world is mutated by ancient light long in the distance. Fragmented terminal entries and holotapes record the first-hand experiences of those caught unaware by the sudden attack.
Damn it, it's this thing. Okay, it's recording. OJB here, and you would not believe what I'm seeing right now. Yeah, I'm sitting here driving this truck, and what do I see ahead but a sky full of... Well, there's these streaks of light like nothing I ever seen. Woo, boy, howdy. It's majestic, like shooting stars in early morning light. Yeah, only I ain't never seen them in the morning like this. It's like a rocket streaking through the blue sky, or like... Oh, shit, was that nuclear? Oh shit, it exploded. Oh, damn it, I was staring right at it. Oh, I'm blind! Shit, I can't see!
Where we find this tape tells us an enormous amount about where the driver was headed, what the driver was doing, and very little about the sounds we hear at the very end of the tape. We learn just enough for our investigation to lead further into the desolate wastes to discover the origins of the creature in one of the most prolific horrors of the Fallout series.
Hello. I am Hector of Two Sons, a professor of histories here at Angel's Boneyard Medical University. They took away my medical license last week due to some of my more radical beliefs about the possibilities of centaur reproduction. Unfortunately for you, they don't have anyone else who took the history class before the last professor died. It will look like I'm your last hope of graduating this year. For this, our intro to Wasteland history, we are going to be catching you up to speed with all the horrors and wonders of the Wasteland, between here, our home in Los Angeles, California, all the way to the east coast on Mount Desert Island, Maine. One of the biggest challenges for us in attempting to build a history around Fallout is that Fallout is fiction. I know. Turns out it started out as a game nearly 30 years ago called Fallout, a post-nuclear role-playing game, by the developers Interplay, later to be named Black Isles. In the time since, Fallout has spread over a dozen titles, contributing to the massive world that is the Wasteland. Hundreds of writers, artists, and developers have contributed to the series, building one of the most information-dense fictional worlds I've ever encountered. So what can we do to help us? For this study, it would be helpful for us to look at the protagonists of the stories in Fallout as myth histories, and the worlds we encounter as archaeological sites, such as in the case of the historical figures like Rasputin, Cleopatra, and Gilgamesh. We have mountains of credible accounts mixed with incredible feats that make it difficult for us to get a clear understanding of the full history. We will be tackling the world of Fallout much in the same way that an archaeologist would, comparing accounts to evidence and seeing what shakes out. Although we don't have a single character that we can track that's lived through the entirety of the war, we do have FEV. Instead of looking at the battles in the Sino-American War or the developments in nuclear and energy weapons, we are going to be building a timeline with FEV as our primary character. Our Julia Caesar, if you will, or Julia Little Caesar, if you will. Hello! We are going to be examining the development history of FEV, or the Forced Evolutionary Virus, as our perspective character, looking at it more like a character arc. A bioweapon developed by the United States government and Corporation Westtech, FEV changes the very genetic information of whatever it comes into contact with. A gene manipulation innovation seen even today in the post-war environment, and the plants that we eat, to the drugs that we eat. It will show up time and time again, influencing the very leaders we relied on and nature itself. By examining corrupted terminals, scraps of diary entries, and the locations they are found, we will be able to track the progression, development, and spread of one of the most terrifying creations of the pre-war.
However, as the good little academics that you are, we're going to be starting our class with a little bit of homework. Looking before the creation of the Fallout series, we are going to look at a couple of the mid-century science fiction inspirations and influences to see what we can glean about how Fallout tells its story. 1995's A Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter M. Miller presents a world whose context is consumed in the Great Flame Deluge, a great catastrophe that sets the world to a pre-electricity technology state. The book does little to elucidate us to the past of the world, only being relayed to us in references by the monks of the technology-obsessed Abbey of Leibowitz. The opening line, Brother Francis Jared of Utah might have never discovered the blessed documents, had it not been for the pilgrim with the girded loins, who appeared during the young novice's Latin fast in the desert.
Prepares the reader for a dense text written in an affect of Old English syntax referred to as post-deluge English, turning the experience of reading into a game of translation and interpretation. Let's play a little with that last line here.
Brother Frank never would have found the Krabby Patty recipe if not for the man in slutty shorts who interrupted his No-Nut November.
Frank, our buddy for Fiat Homo, the first section of Canticle for Leibowitz, reveals to us a world once ravaged by the Flame Deluge, a catastrophic event that sent the strange, salamander-like dragons called Fallout across the lands, burninating the ground and the skies, fouling the young maiden who give birth to the children of Fallout. The first books of the Abbey's library, handwritten off the dome by my man Leibowitz, shortly after the bombs fell during an event known as the Simplification. A rise in technophobia, pushing culture towards a more medieval state. The tradition morphed from one of preservation to that of holy worship of technological information. All information in the world has been given to us by God and exists physically in the world. All you need to do is find it, according to these monks. The models are incomplete, and it's common for monks to go on long voyages through radiation-soaked deserts, hostile with strange, sometimes five-legged creatures not blessed by the mutant Saint Javier, who blessed those with greater intelligence to worship Jesus. Twisted by time, the accounts of how the world was once destroyed in nuclear fire, radioactive dust, the fallout causing harm and mutations for generations to come. Fiat Homo is given to us in first-person account of the discovery of documents written in pre-DeLong English in long-abandoned Fallout shelter by Frank Jerry, our buddy. Very little is given to us in expositionary dialogue or explained to us by the young monk.
Told in metaphor that maintains the emotional context, linguistic holdovers will help us to understand the literal context of their origins. Most of the information we glean is through translation, not only of the on-the-text page from post-deluge English into something more akin to pre-deluge English, what we speak today, but in the non-literal translation of the cultural references made by Frank.
Sounds familiar, right?
Fallout loves to place references to things in our real world to help us fill out the wasteland by tricking us into filling those blank spaces out ourselves. Groups like the Hubologists and Great Cons are great examples of how Fallout uses the information already in your head to make the Fallout world seem bigger than it is. Frank, however, is talking to us in his world's version of Family Guy. Peter, the super mutants at the door. The creatures he refers to as Fallout and the events referred to with big noun names like the Great Flame Deluge and the Simplification are never directly explained to us. We as the reader are able to connect the word Fallout to our word for radioactive material that floats down out of the atmosphere. The word Fallout serves us like a tuning fork, helping to orient us in our position and our perspective of the worlds of the wastelands presented in The Canticle for Leibowitz and Fallout. Of course, Fallout has pop cultural references to movies like A Boy and His Dog, Mad Max, and Doctor Who, but unless you were really in your mom's basement in the 90s with the boys, you probably wouldn't have pegged Warhammer.
40K takes place in the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no peace, only war.
Between the fungoid warbands on backwood asteroid haulers and your cousin Mick, who decided last week it was a good idea to get really into bath salts and violence, An accurate history of the Imperium of Man, the primary human faction in 40k, was never an option. The psychic realm of the Void allows the Imperium to travel great distances and communicate through specialized psychers. However, in the Void are immaterial demons that are literally and non-literally made up of the psychic bad vibes that exist in the universe. With as much violence and hate in the universe that there is in 40k, the biggest beings that are out there are godly manifestations of violence, greed, apathy, and physical sensation. Nothing is more sinful in Warhammer than knowing the devil is real and will get more powerful when you jack off to him. As such, a lot of what we know in the Warhammer universe is either heavily redacted to be nearly useless, or is outright human propaganda. The average person in Warhammer is educated with just enough to be a good hive worker and will probably never see an alien, orc, or demon in their lifetime. They might not even make a distinction between a hive tyrant and a carnifex. Fallout does something I find really interesting with its characters' access to knowledge and language, especially in its limitations. A character's knowledge is limited only to their assumed fictional relationship and personal history. In tabletop games, this is often referred to as in or out of character knowledge, kayfabe in wrestling, or for everything else and everywhere else, lore. As the Vault Dweller, the world is new and like you, the player, are experiencing the game for the first time, they too are ignorant of many of the happenings in the Wastes. It's easy to imagine living an isolated life underground. You, as the player, have to do very little work to make the experience wandering through the strange wastes, asking strange questions like, is it okay to drink this glowing green water, feel immersive. In stark contrast to the ease of use of a Vault Dweller, the Chosen One is given to us in first-person accounts of the world translated through their understanding of it as a tribal, a member of a group that have developed a culture distinct from the pre-war. Examples of these include the Khans and the Sorrows, but also groups like the Kings in New Vegas. The Chosen One, our protagonist in Fallout 2, is sent out into the waste to chase after first a Gek, a Vault-Tec relic, and then to save their village of Arroyo from the remnants of the pre-war government, the Enclave. Although skilled enough to save the entire Wastelands from the horrors of the Enclave attempting to poison the world through FEV, the Chosen One is not very tech literate. Vertibirds, large helicopter-like vehicles with two large domes for the pilots, are described as dragonflies. Frank Horrigan, an enormous dogmatic soldier of the Enclave, is described as a moving mountain with machines that spat fire. Your hard-working and deep mom who keeps the bad out of your garden of prosperity? Oh. In Fallout New Vegas, you get the pleasure of having interpretations like this relayed to you in forms of strange rumors by the silky smooth voice of Mr. New Vegas.
Witnesses report a huge object or creature surfacing in Lake Mead. So far, photos of the so-called Lake Mead monster are grainy and underexposed.
The Sorrows and the Broken Hearts DLC give us a foundational myth that builds from the interpretations of interactions with a one Randall Clark, who is currently a skeleton. The Boomers foundational myth references the infamous Vault 34, who had a massive stockpile of weapons and a radiation leak, leading to their exodus. Woo boy, they love blowing shit up. Including you. And then I blow up. And you blow me up. You blow me up? Philip K. Dick's Dr. Blood Money, like the other works we've discussed, takes place in a post-nuclear winter world devastated by the world powers vying for control over resources. Written in 1963, the work predicts a Cold War getting very hot very quickly. Following no less than 8 perspective characters, maybe 12 if you want to be generous to the rats at the end, in a relatively thin for the genre, 222-page paperback. The book is thick with contradictions, bad faith interpretations, and characters projecting their own beliefs and emotions onto each other. For the titular Bruno Bluthgeld, a megalomaniac psychosis has led him to believe not only that the accidental detonation over China was not the result of his incompetence or a mistake on his part, but was in fact caused by him unlocking his psychic blast!
We gotta... No. Nuh-uh.
He did not, in fact, spirit bomb the Earth, he just regular bombed the Earth. The resulting failure led to massive fallout covering the northern hemisphere in radioactive material, resulting in the birth of a generation of genetically altered humans. Some of these folks, like Hoppy Harrington, are psychokinetic and can do things like perfectly imitate people's voices and manners, see into the near future, and even pick up a Nazi from 10 miles away and slam him up and down like a Beanie Baby full of milk. Get this, he must have had another bad blast because not long after, the world powers unleashed nuclear devastation, setting the world back to a state of barter.
Hoppy's goal in the post-war is to replace the space Mr. New Vegas, Walt Dangerfield, a Dean Martin knockoff Martian colonist turned toon specialist stranded in orbit after the bombs hit. He misses his wife. Hoppy does this by thinking about giving Walt cancer really bad. Hoppy and the Doctor suffer from delusions of grandeur, believing themselves to be the noble leaders of humanity.
Hoppy, who is a freak, enjoys making people uncomfortable, describing how they're going to be in the sewers one day hunting rats. Like Bluthgeld, not a nice guy. Unlike Bluthgeld, however, Hoppy is able to use some kind of psychic ability and his plan to kill Dangerfield works. Hoppy is able to slowly and smoothly replace the once beloved radio host, taking over the voice who still gives hope to a global audience. For the listeners, it's as if one day Walt's illness suddenly vanished. He wasn't as smooth and he didn't speak as well, but what he said still felt like the old Walt. I don't think the appeal of the Fallout series comes solely from its nature as an interactive piece of media that you can direct through your actions, but from its ability to ask of the player to do more than just play the game. How it gets you as the player to work harder as an experiencer to get more out of the world. It's not something that is unique to Fallout, of course. There are hundreds of series with communities built around just the lore of the series, and finding all the little details that and what they could mean. It is important to keep in mind that Fallout is not a monolith, but was created by actions decided by people and carried out by other people. Hopefully, this lecture opens your mind a little bit about the different ways you can play with your media. Thank you very much for sitting in on this, my first lesson here on the channel. Next time we return, hopefully we'll be with the first part of the actual history of the Fallout series, starting from about 2050 to about the times the bombs dropped. I hope you had a good time watching, and will join us next time. And remember, the only thing that matters is that you love it.
Real quick, just wanted to jump in on the end here, say thank you for watching. Ko-fi link in the bio below helps me pay my friends, and thank you again.